I don't know about you, but there are few things in life more frustrating than losing your keys. And when I say losing your keys, it's more like, shall we say, misplacing them. You know, you've put them down somewhere. You're certain, in fact, that you've left them in a specific place. And when you go to use them, they just aren't there. You look all over for them. You look in the kitchen. You look on the counter or the key rack if you have one. You might look in your living room. Maybe I left them on an end table or the coffee table. Does anyone really know why they call those coffee tables? If you do, please let me know. Or you might look in the entryway. If you are an organized person who has a place for everything, you might have a table or a basket there for mail and keys and everything else that's important to you that you need a place for when you first walk into the house. A side note, I don't have one of those. You might look in your bedroom. If it's common for you to bring your purse or the bag that you use to haul things around with you when you go there at night at the end of the day. Then if you still haven't found your keys, you might look in the pockets of the last coat that you wore, or the shirt, or the jeans. And then if you still haven't found them, well, you might do what I did the other day and then go out to your car and look in the center console. I'm 2 cars into the new you need a fob and not a key way of doing things. I'm still getting used to not having a key that starts my car on a key ring with the rest of my keys. I finally did find my key, actually the fob. It was in the center console. There were 15 frantic minutes, and I looked in many of the places that I just described. And then I finally found them. Well, the fob, anyway. 15 minutes after I started the search. Yes, I could have used the spare, but let's face it, it wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have been the key, the one that I needed, because the spare has a specific purpose. It's supposed to just sit there and wait for its turn to be used when it's needed. And that means when I can't find the other key, and I've been searching for a half hour, not 15 minutes. In life, keys aren't the only things that get lost or misplaced. And the value of what we lose can vary. We might spend only a few minutes looking for something, or we might spend years, or we might spend even a lifetime. Every once in a while, there are news stories about class rings being found decades after they were lost in ponds. As a matter of fact, there was one just a couple of months ago about a ring in, I think it was New Hampshire, that had been missing for 53 years, and then it was found. There are also stories about postcards that finally reached their intended recipients decades, sometimes even close to 100 years, after they were mailed or should have been mailed. Not all things that are lost, though, are tangible. Addiction can mean the loss of oneself or life as it was. There is the time in one's life before the addiction took hold, the life during addiction, and for those who enter recovery, life after addiction and its challenges. Failed relationships can have devastating consequences. I'm sure, if you're like me, some of you have known of or had friendships that suddenly imploded. Something that was said was taken the wrong way. Someone in the relationship changed. And it really doesn't matter what the reason was. In most instances, it's just the fact that they changed. Someone broke the rules of the relationship. Maybe they violated a confidence. Maybe it was something much worse, or maybe it was just something that was relatively minor. And of course, in the case of a confidence, the result is a loss of trust, one that may or may not mean that we can have a relationship with that person again. After the loss of a loved one, when we are in the throes of grief and despair, we might lose our zest, our joy, and sometimes we might even lose our hope. It can take, depending on the loss, months or even years to be able to laugh again, to recall a precious memory for what it was without the tears. So when I think of loss, when I think about loss, I naturally tend to think about the human spirit and how resilient it is. I can't help but think about the significance of today's date in history and where we have been and where we are going. And of course, I'm referring to September 11th. I also find myself thinking about how today's scripture readings and the parables, both of the lost sheep and the lost coin, play a role in our lives. In both parables, something is lost and then found. And once it is found, there's rejoicing, lots of rejoicing. Now, certainly I was very happy to find my key fob. And for a moment in time, I was like, yes, there it is. And the world felt right. Order had been restored. I realize it's kind of a small thing, but it is something that once you do find something like that, you do feel that order has been restored. Everything is right again. But that's just a key fob. And in the overall scheme of things, it's really a blip. It is certainly not as important as a friendship or a life. But I think there's more to it than that, and I'm referring to the parables. Yes, there's rejoicing, and lots of it. But there is a value that Jesus places on the sinner who repents, the sinner who acknowledges they have sinned and seeks forgiveness. And that's why there is rejoicing. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law seem to have missed the point. They lumped the sinners in with the lowest of the low. They merely saw sinners as people with faults. They did not see them as having the potential to change. Once a sinner, always a sinner. They didn't seem to realize, and yet Jesus did, how much it takes to say that we have done something wrong, to admit it to ourselves, to admit it to God, to ask for forgiveness. It means that we have to admit we have judged something incorrectly. We have made a mistake. We are frail. We have frailties. Basically, it means that we have to admit that we are human. In making these admissions, in seeking forgiveness, we grow. And it's that growth that actually enables us to become more like Jesus. And that's what we should be striving for, each and every day. We should be examining our lives, looking for what isn't there, looking for what we've lost, examining whether we have lived with grace, shared our love, and kept the faith. If we've lost some of what it means to be a Christian, to live as Jesus taught us and is still teaching us today, then it's time to accept the challenge.